exit strategy if it doesn't work out. So if we don't get a bounce here up, my exit is any confirmation below this downsloping trend line.
In this interview, Gareth Soloway talks about the new Bitcoin dominance after the crash. He also compared Bitcoin with the stock market, and then he also touched upon his latest predictions on Bitcoin and Ethereum. Most importantly, he went over what he thinks will be the new bottom for Bitcoin and the crypto market before we could see new highs. If you want to hear Gareth's comments on the crypto market, watch this video till the end, and don't forget to press the like button. Also, subscribe to our channel for daily updates. We post twice every single day. Now, let's look at his interview.
All right. Gareth, what you got for us today?
I just got some good old-fashioned charts.
Famous
you know me.
charts. Oh, yeah.
All right. So let's just quickly talk a little bit about Bitcoin here. A little disappointed in Bitcoin. I'm sure you are as well, right? So I think we have to just recognize that a couple days ago, we had this big move up. It was awesome. We closed above this little range right here. You had a pause day, and then yesterday kind of broke the bull's hearts, right? We came right back inside of this range. Now, I think it's important to recognize that as of now, nothing's changed other than you're just stuck back in this range, right? And you're still inside of this larger channel to the downside where you can see, notice the pivot point right here, here, and here. That's still holding. So, bottom line is that we're back in a holding pattern. I think all eyes continue to be on what the Fed is going to do in 2 weeks with interest rates, which they're going to raise 50 basis points. Is it going to create more risk-off environment, which obviously could potentially push Bitcoin and stocks in general down? I think that's an issue as well. But, right now the markets are viewing it like, this is a chatter pattern, a sideways chop pattern, where we're just waiting to see what the next official move is. So for me, I have a small position long as a swing trade on Bitcoin right now, just very small, only 12% of my portfolio in total. And I'm just a wait and see attitude. I'm hoping for the move up. I think we might be still due for one more push up before we get a new leg down. I know you're still looking on the bearish side overall for the rest of the year as well. I am as well. I just think, again, as a swing trader, there's opportunities to buy support, sell resistance. Yeah, so that's an amazingly good question, right? Because the general consensus with the retail crowd is like, oh, it's going to go to all-time highs, which is not realistic, right? You have to be realistic, especially in a bear market. Bear markets can have amazing rallies, but they fade very quickly and they get smoked and make new lows. So right now, I mean, really, there's a couple levels I'm watching, and this is the conservative one. So the conservative is it only gets back to this pivot low here, which was that previous, remember when we had that initial drop from 69,000, it went to 33. So that is what we came close to. We didn't even touch it yet. That would be my conservative view. My mid level would be just 34,500 here. And then if we're really lucky, like if we can get a decent move up, let's say it's a risk on environment, the Fed all of a sudden, maybe shows a little bit of leniency, maybe inflation numbers we're going to get next week are not going to be as bad. Maybe people start thinking, hey, listen, there's a possibility. For my max upside at this stage, I'm really looking at like 37, 38,000. So again, it's not a robustly big move up for a swing trader who's in around 30. That's a decent 20% move. I'm down for that. That's the type of moves I like. But I certainly am going to be nimble. If we break, basically for me, and right, every smart investor and trader, if you're a swing trader investor, you need to know your exit strategy if it doesn't work out. So if we don't get a bounce here up, my exit is any confirmation below this downsloping trend line. So notice here, we pierced it. They saved it.
We can't see it right now.
Yep.
Gareth.
Oh, sorry, buddy.
Yep.
Sorry. Let me throw that up. Apologize. So basically, these are my resistance levels here. Again, 33,000, 34.5. And then the max upside, I think, is around this level here. And you can see the pivot is that 33,000. That's coming from the big move down low. And then here's a little pivot low. And then this area here is a lot of resistance right in this range, right? That's where we really started to cascade to the downside. And then, like I said, on the opposite side, what you're going to look for is if the market really starts to deteriorate, and I am long right now, even though it's a small position, I have to know my exit strategy. Any sort of confirmation below this white trend line, that would be where I would say, okay, now it's going to 20. If it breaks here and confirms here, that's your next stop is 20,000. If it breaks 20, you're potentially talking about 12 as a low pivot. So again, notice how here you pierced the white trend line and it recovered. Here you briefly pierced it, recovered, touched it right here. So it's very clear that this is your line in the sand, that as long as it holds that, there's a small chance of a bounce here, a little bit of upside. If it confirms below there, bye bye, wave goodbye as it kind of falls back down.
Yeah. Now, is it a little worrisome that it seems like while we're all expecting a little bit of a pump here, like a relief rally, the Bitcoin can't even get enough momentum to get a relief rally? Is that a problem, you think? Like,
Yeah,
should we maybe not expect a rally?
yeah. So it certainly is worrisome, right? And for me, it's the price action is paramount. It's everything, right? And when you saw the move on, I think it was Sunday. Sunday we had this beautiful top or move up. To see a reversal candle like that back down is very, very bearish, right? Let me
Mhm.
throw that chart up again so we can see. So this green candle was very good. It got above that range. I was even positive there. I was like, all right, here we go. Here we go. I'm long, I'm in the money. Let's see it get up to 33. I'll take off maybe a quarter of my position or a third of my position. Then we'll see if it goes up and up and up. And then to see that, it kind of did take a lot of wind out of my sails myself. Now it is getting a bounce today. Technology, the stock market's getting a bounce. But I agree with you. I mean, the fact that it hasn't been able to get a bounce here, a more significant bounce, is worrisome. But again, everything for me comes down to don't think as much versus just let the charts tell me, right? So, I look at it and I'm like, oh, well, that sucks. It didn't do this. But then bottom line is it's still holding this line and I have to respect that line until it's broken.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to look at it. You know,
you
and now
you're so bearish, buddy. I
I
mean,
am.
and I understand why. I
Yeah.
totally understand why. You have so many negatives out there. The crypto space has to get a washout, right? I think we both agree
Yeah.
that there's so much junk in the system. It's like a cancer that has to be removed in a weird way with all the junk so that the best can survive. So I'm with you in that. I just think that there's a small chance of a bounce before then. But again, the charts will tell me if we break that white trend line, then this is, bye bye to 20,000.
Yeah, and people don't like the side of things. They don't like
Yeah.
the bearish outlook. But the fact is, this is what we see every 4 years in crypto. We don't have this kind of pattern or cycle in the stock market, but when it comes to crypto, it's predictable and it's always been predictable and it always goes lower than people expect it to go. So
Hmm.
I definitely think that this is something to consider that maybe we don't get a relief rally. So what kind of time frame are you looking at to say, maybe the bearish action will subside?
Yeah, so I mean, I think at best case, 12 to 18 months from the top, right? So
Right.
November, and if you look at past cycles, and I know you're talking about the 4 year
Mhm.
cycle, so you have to look and say, how long did it take for us to bottom out? It was about 12 months from the peaks. And then you had about 6 months at minimum of chop sideways to slightly up before you
Mhm.
started to really get that next leg up. So I think that's your best case. The worrying case, and this is like the case that I as a crypto believer, I don't even want to think about. But it's like if you look at the .com collapse, and it took the Nasdaq, what was it like 10 years plus to take out the previous high. I don't think that'll happen because I think you have scenarios where, you have a asset that has 21 million run in Bitcoin. That's the maximum. You have this rotation where you're going to see more and more inflation. So there's a lot of different things working, but that would be like the craziest scenario of that amount of time. I'm going with 12 to 18 months before we bottom out.
Okay. Yeah, we're looking at after the midterms,
Yeah.
last week of November. That's kind of what we're targeting. That's what we've seen in the last two cycles. We've seen the bottom come right after the midterms. One
Yeah.
last kind of capitulation. So, maybe we'll see it this time, maybe we won't. And I think really what people have to pay attention to is that when it comes to what we're looking at for price action for the bottom, okay, if we're looking at the 85% drawdown, which puts it at 10,300, which is pretty close to that 12,000 that you mentioned. Or, maybe
Mhm.
we don't go below previous all-time high of 20,000. I think what happens here, whether we get the relief rally or not, I think that's important because if we don't get a relief rally, man, it puts that 10,300 right in the crosshairs. We've got to go up and get some positive action to prevent us, I believe, from the total, downswing. And I think it's really important to understand that we're just one black swan event away from getting
Yeah.
absolutely, abysmal Bitcoin prices.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And I think investors, you have to just, if there's one thing you want investors to realize in this is that never buy the hype at all-time highs.
Mhm.
And you have to just be aware of that more and more. And there's so many new investors in crypto because crypto is such a new asset. But for those of us like myself who went through the 1999 2000.com collapse, and then 2007 and 8 and 9, and the financial collapse, I mean, I've been through this rodeo before, and so I kind
Mhm.
of have that mentality. And we all have to gain that educational aspect. Yes, sometimes lessons stink to be learned and it costs you a lot of money. It certainly cost me a lot back then, but I'm glad to say I learned this time around and I was safe, and I did not chase at those highs.